I hate to say the things that I want to say about the whole Final Fantasy project because what I'm saying runs contrary to my own values as a person. You see, inclusion as a concept is one of the concepts that I will go out to bat to defend. I mean, I cringed at a white girl that took to YouTube to talk about how the diversity hire at Chick-fil-A was the reason why she's not shopping there anymore because it's, woke culture that took over. And it's like, oh no, they're going to include people that would otherwise be excluded because exclusionary shit is great, isn't it? You know, and I was like, I'm surprised that we have a clash of values because I think inclusion is usually a good thing. But here, we have to cast it with a negative light. I hate that it breaks down to this because being the person that goes and points the finger and says, because China, is not a lot of fun, especially when that runs completely contrary to the things that you hold sacred and dear to say. But unfortunately, when an inconvenient truth is the truth, it doesn't go away just because you don't like what the fucking problem is. And that, I think, it encapsulates so much of what has gone wrong. You see, China has had a very pernicious and poisonous impact on the world of entertainment. And with Final Fantasy 15, we saw that influence that had already begun to creep in to Hollywood start to spread to the gaming industry. You know, and I know that I'm kind of pointing the finger at China and having to extrapolate a bunch of assumptions here, but they have bans against cults and cult type religions and everything in their country. They're pretty strict about that kind of thing. They don't want any of that kind of thing going on at all. And this game featuring themes about that kind of thing may have been seen as dangerous within Chinese society, and it very likely would have been banned. So what I'm saying is going to kind of come off as heresy because it runs contrary to so much of what I believe, and it also runs contrary to the pursuits of the people with the financiers behind a lot of these projects, which is to say that what went wrong is both self-censorship and overambition when it comes to Final Fantasy 15, and those are the two themes that it boils down to, because of the fact that the aim here was for a global launch and to sell to a global audience instead of a niche, as it has been traditionally ideal when it comes to Square Enix and its marketing. It doesn't want to sell to just a niche audience. It's never wanted to do that. It's wanted to sell to as many people as it fucking can, and I can't say that I blame them for that ambition, but unfortunately, it sometimes results in a lesser product as a result, and that's what we ended up with here. It's one of the reasons why Final Fantasy 15 was ultimately a shitty game. It was, unfortunately, it was simply too much inclusion that drove the game into the ground. I mean, they went too far with it. They wanted to sell to a global audience. And as a result, they censored the crap out of the project that was originally on par with the game. And we ended up with a very crappy game in its place. And I think that what frustrates me too is that like Square Enix saw this as something that they had to put, their foot down on, and they had to do everything they could to basically clamp down on dissent that was taking place, because it was just like, we all have access to YouTube where like I watched like the Night Prince and everything in his content, and I mean I've I wouldn't have known otherwise about all the stuff that was going on and everything that went wrong. I wouldn't have seen a lot of that stuff that stuff happen, but I can honestly tell you that it's unfortunate, and it's a reality that this game had a very crappy storyline, and it had a very crappy storyline precisely because of the fact that it decided to self-censor in order to sell to a global audience. It wanted to sell to too many people, and as a result of all of that inclusion, ended up with a less than even acceptable project. That's basically what went wrong at the company. I mean, it's hard to argue that Square Enix isn't overly ambitious too. I mean, they have their nose as a company in everything. At this point, they've gone completely multimedia. They've got mangas, comics, they've got movies and everything else, and they've got so many different projects and so many like different things going on at once, and some of them, for years and years and years were not actually profitable, which is why when they sold off some of their old studios and everything else, I was sitting there like, yeah, this seems like a wise business move. They just have too much shit going on all at once. And so, I think that, they got greedy when it comes to Final Fantasy 15, and that greed drove the game into the ground.